We be live. Hello,
Hello.
everyone. Hi, everyone. Okay, we have some explaining to do. What do All right, Susanna.
I don't understand what's like weird or unusual.
Okay, wait. Okay, Susanna, why are you wearing sunglasses?
Because I went to get my eyes examined today, and
Mhm.
the optometrist dilated my eyes, so it looks like I took just a boatload of Molly, and also I can't see
Wait, you
anything.
can't say that.
Why not?
All right. Okay.
um. Yeah, the light really hurts my eyes, so I have to wear the sunglasses.
All right. Okay, so here's a problem. We're going to be clipping these videos because we're going to be answering questions, and each question is going to become its own clip, and then we're going to be releasing them. So each one of these, are we going to explain this before? I know.
No, it will just confuse people. They'll comment
Uh-huh.
on it. It'll drive engagement. It's fine.
Okay, sure.
Let them be
Okay.
confused.
Okay. Oh, this is sweet. Like, great to see laughing faces. Not from India. Oh, that's very
Ah,
sweet. Thank you.
love
Thank you.
to India.
Mm. All right. So you have had the guys, we're gonna answer the Patreon questions and then we're gonna go to the live chat and answer the live chat questions. So the Patreon questions get priority and also they're guaranteed to get a response unless they're like not a question. Um and yeah, and also so if you want to support us, you could become a patron link in the description. And that means that we will answer your questions always first, and also we guarantee to answer them. And also that means that if you can't join us live here with us, you could send your questions ahead of time to us as a patron. And even if you can't be here, your questions will be answered, and you can come back check later to see what the answers were. All right. So yeah, link in the description. Oh, I'm gonna the new questions that are coming in, and I'm gonna start them as they come in. Okay, cool. All right, let's go to the Patreon question.
I would also like to ask the audience about their opinion on my sunglasses because Armin thinks I look silly. He doesn't like them. I think they're cool,
Yeah.
but you said I look
No,
like a kid in the 80s trying to look cool, which I can appreciate.
yes. It is. That's what you look like. But yeah, but I like your other sunglasses better. Yeah. Anyways, so
And it was either
um
this or the big rainbow shield that I have. Do you remember that? The rainbow face shield?
wait, Mustafa likes it. Mustafa says you look hot. Okay, and
Thank you.
Asian Americans saying they look dope. Okay. Apparently everyone disagrees with me. All right, we should get to the questions.
I can use this as a
Okay.
prop. Um,
Okay.
so, first patron question is from Hum Donnie asking, firstly, where do you stand on the issue of Russia placing their military in Ukraine? Do you think it is a possible World War III? Um, I'm going to pass this primarily to Armin
Okay.
because it's just a mess.
Wait.
It's
All right.
freaky. Yeah.
All right. So first of all, World War III, no. Okay. I can't believe how many people keep saying that every time something happens. We're like, World War III is coming. No, it's not. It's not gonna happen. Okay. It's not World War III. Okay. Like I mean, at least now we're talking about Russia. They said the last time they said like this is gonna happen, it was with Iran. Iran is gonna cause World War III. Like, really? Are you joking? Iran, like, if Iran had to go, remember when they took out Qasem Soleimani, like people like Karl Kulinski was like, "Oh my God, World War III started." It's like World War III with who? Is every war not going to be described as World War III? Like, if Iran goes to war with the United States, who's going to back up Iran? Like, do you think Russia and China are going to go war with like the entire West over Iran? Like, so that was ridiculous. At least now we're talking about a nuclear power. But guess what? They're nuclear powers. They're not going to go to war with each other, okay? Their economies are so interlinked. do you think like these countries are suicidal? Like, do you think nuclear powers are going to go to war with each other? Like, of course. Okay. Oh, you're. Oh, wait, I have to be careful. You're a patron. I don't have to be. I have to be nice to you. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. No. Okay. This is just my tone. Okay. They're not going to go to war with each other. Okay. Like some people are like, oh, there's going to be World War III over Taiwan. Taiwan, for example, China and the United States going to war with each other. I mean, what planet are you living in? Why would China go to war with the United States over Taiwan? Do you know like how much? Do you know how much? Do you know how much U.S. dollar China holds? Do you know how much U.S. debt China holds? Do you know what happens to all that U.S. debt if it goes to war with the United States of America? Do you know how much stuff China sells to the United States? Why would they want to go to war with the United States? None of these countries want to go to war with each other. That's not going to happen. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so yeah, Russia is not going to go to war with the United States of America over Ukraine. Like Russia is like, okay, think about this. Russia is like all of this stuff is doing. It's because it's so paranoid and scared about the possibility of NATO getting closer to its borders. Okay, because now if I have some military presence, it might like. Is going to be more pressure on Russia. So you think over that fear, they're going to be like, oh yeah, we're fearing more military presence of NATO right next to our border. So why not risk going to war with the superpower of the planet? Like what? Over like, so you're worried about something that to stop that, you're going to do something that is a million times more scary. Like that's why I'm saying this is not going to cause World War III or anything like that, right? So there's that. So yeah, but by the way, when you say World War III, I'm assuming United States is going to be involved. So that's why I'm saying that's impossible for Russia to try to escalate that to that point. Okay, so that was the second part of the question, but the first part of the question is actually more important and more serious. Okay. Where do you stand on the issue of Russia placing their military in Ukraine? I mean, okay. I think that they need to be crushed. Okay, Putin needs to be crushed and humiliated. This needs to backfire on them, and I think it will backfire on them. Okay, whether this ends in some form of a conflict like war, right? In the same way it happened in Georgia, and the same way it happened before in Ukraine, and they took some land and stuff before. I want this to be, I want the CCP in China and Putin to completely fail. Okay, like I don't know if people appreciate how important the world liberal order is. Like I keep listening to everybody talking about this has nothing to do with the United States. United States should only get involved if it's like if it's like affecting United States, or maybe when they get to NATO countries, maybe then the United States should be. You are losing your mind. Okay, everybody who thinks that United States should stay out of this, you're insane. Okay, we have, ever since World War II, we have had this united liberal order that has created a system of trade and somewhat stability around the planet that everybody is benefiting from it so much, and they don't understand how important these liberal orders are. People look at what's happening in Afghanistan or like in Syria, and they think like, or in Yemen, and they think like, oh, everywhere is just like war and things are fucked. Okay, they don't understand that things are fucked, but they have never been this stable. Okay, just because you keep seeing war on the news doesn't mean that the relative stability that we're enjoying today is actually it does mean that the relative stability we're enjoying today is still higher than we have ever enjoyed in the history of humankind. Okay, this order that we have created ever since World War II you are living at the best of times, and if you don't understand this, you're not going to be able to appreciate the current system that the world powers have created. that everybody, including these tyrants and democracy, everybody is benefiting from it, and they don't understand it. You can't fuck with that, okay? Tyrants are coming in and they're trying to create their own orders. They're going around, and because like the somewhat economic power that they have, one of them from gas and oil, and the other one because it tried capitalism for a while and it like really worked out for it, and now they're like supporting they want to support a new other kind of order, like the tyrant's version of order, right? They're going around and they're supporting other authoritarian regimes, and they want to make sure that this whole democratic model is not the only model, and they need to fail. They need to be crushed. They need to be humiliated. This needs to be like as a sinking black hole for Russia. Either if they go into this war, they need to become bankrupt because of it, and if they don't go to this war, they need to be embarrassed and humiliated. And I want Ukraine to join NATO. I know people like, I know that's not going to probably happen, but I want them to be like, you know what? Fuck you. Now we realize that how much we need to how much we need the defense of the West. And I want the West to also be like, okay, we weren't considered, like even if we didn't want Ukraine to be part of NATO before, now we do, okay? Because why? Because fuck you, because that's why, all right? Like you can't do anything. Like I want the West to be more united over this. Like what the fuck is happening, right? Like France and like Germany, like guys, you're talking about defending a system that I know, like Germany love it, like it's sucking on Russia's, tits for gas, right? But I know, like, okay, but guys, you're already committed to green energy, okay? You're already trying to save the planet and stuff. I know temporarily this is going to be like really hard for you because of the high energy prices and all, but over the long term, this is an investment. This like in defending this world, this liberal order that you all are like, everybody is benefiting from. This is one thing that the world needs to thank the United States for, because the United States is contributing more to maintaining this order than anybody else, and everybody else is also benefiting from it, right? And you know how this is what I'm saying. I agree with France as well. I'm all for the European Union creating its own army and stuff, okay? But it's never going to be the same as the United States. Like, come on, like even if you want to do that, France can't go around and keep like, oh, we're going to be separate from the United States. You can't do shit with without United States, okay? That army that you all are benefiting from, okay, that is something that you are going to need you are going to be way behind for many decades to come, okay? You need to be thankful, and you need to maintain your unity with United States and every single other country that is defending democratic values, okay? And I know people are going to be like, well, United States, defending democratic values, is that a joke? Yes, I know United States is not the best, defender of human rights and democratic values across the world. But it's the best you fucking have right now, okay? When it comes to defending against the rise of fucking authoritarian governments and tyranny, okay? When it comes to the rise of the CCP, and Putin going around and doing old kind of imperialism. We're not talking neo-imperialism. We're like, oh, we give you like money, and then now you have to like, oh, we're like opening McDonald's, and you're like, oh, new imperialism. They're doing the traditional imperialism, which may I remind you, nobody else in the entire planet is doing anymore. Okay, this is pre-World War II shit. We just go and be like, hey, we're here. This is our land now. Okay, what is this shit? We have the whole entire world has matured way past that, and Russia is like doing that too. And we're like, hey, should we be united against Russia? Should we send armies there or not armies? Yes, you should send armies there. What the hell are you doing? Okay, this is the stuff that you built into these all these systems that you built, NATO, United Nations, like all of these things that you've built, okay, was to stop shit like this. What are you doing? Act united. Put your differences aside. Shut this shit down. Shut it down. Okay, like this is an obvious, guys, this is not a hard thing to be on the right side of. Okay, this is the battle between democratic values. This is the fight between democracy and authoritarianism. Okay, and So obviously, so like one reason Putin doesn't want Ukraine to go be aligned with the West is because it's worried about Russia being hopeful for democracy. He wants to crush, like he wants not Ukrainians are like very close to Russians, okay? Like historically, traditionally, everything. So if democracy succeeds in Ukraine, it's gonna look really bad for Putin. This is not just about Russia. This is about maintaining the liberal order around the world, something that everybody is benefiting from, and also for defending democracy and showing that that model works, and showing that the democratic countries are allied and they will defend each other. And if the fight is between tyranny and democracy, democratic countries will stand up with each other and defend each other to crush tyranny. Okay, this is about more than just Ukraine. This is about defending democracy. Okay, so if you do not support whatever country you're in, if you do not support whatever democratic country that you're in, if you don't support your leaders to saying fuck you to Putin and not on our watch, then you're part of the problem. Okay. Yes.
I feel like the best contribution I've ever had to this show was just sitting here listening to you with my sunglasses on. D is saying Putin is trying to gain concessions through fear. I agree.
Yes. It needs to.
I think that's what this comes down to.
It needs to backfire.
As per usual.
It needs to backfire. You can't fuck around like this. This is not
crazy.
Yeah.
I just think that in like all these different NATO countries domestically, there's just not the appetite for intervention. And I think that's going to be a problem. Because when he's saying Susanna just looks like she's chilling at a spoken word poetry lounge. Casey's right. He's like, snap, 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 snap. Oh, I should just do that when you're making a good point today. Just be like, yes.
Did anybody have any disagreements with what I said?
Asian American is saying democracy is good. What a hot take.
Well, I mean, apparently it is because you need to do more than just saying like democracy good, tyranny bad. Okay, you actually need to contribute. You need to actually pay the price in defending it. Okay, so democracy good, like hey, we're for democratic values. Really? Well, show it. Pay the price for it. Stand up and defend it. So actually, that's a very good point, Asian American. I don't know if that was like supposed to be like a democracy. Saying democracy good is not enough. Anyway.
That oxymoron, who is our Hinduism person, said U.S. won't get involved. It's too much cost against Russia, but it's going to be bad.
U.S. just got involved. They sent more troops to Poland and another country. So I don't know what you're talking about. U.S.
Maybe he means like direct conflict.
Well, nobody's planning direct conflict unless Russia starts a conflict. Okay, so I don't. U.S. Okay, so U.S. is not getting as involved as we like. All right, so Canada actually is getting more involved than United States, which is unbelievable. Okay, so thank you to Trudeau for that. But United States is getting involved. United States has already been involved. They're supporting military aid, equipment and weapons and everything to Ukraine. So I don't know what you're talking. Like maybe you need to be more specific about what you mean by.
Well, also they have NATO commitments. An attack against one is an attack against all.
Yeah, well, Ukraine is not in the NATO.
Well, that's the problem. Yes, but it's clearly one of their interests.
Yeah, so what they need to do is that they need to change this stupid rule that they have in NATO that nobody can join NATO while they have a conflict or something. Okay, so I think like Russia is going to keep maintaining a conflict in Ukraine, so that based on Ukraine's own, because on NATO's own rules, there's no like they just need to change that law. So yeah,
a lot of people are telling me I look pretty cool with these sunglasses.
Okay, that's.
I think Armin
can we do
in the minority? Anyways, next Patreon question actually comes up with the longer thing on Patreon, so I'll just read the whole thing. Secondly, also wanted to raise awareness about something. Could you talk about the issue
Wait,
of
can you
sex?
highlight it?
This is it. I just took the actual question portion out of it, but I want to read the whole thing.
Okay, sorry.
The actual question is, could you talk about the issue of sextortion scans that rose at a significant rate during the lockdown period, just to raise awareness? It's commonly done by people from countries like India, the Philippines, Nigeria, etc. Victims tend to be mostly male, but occasionally females too. I know someone who was a victim of this scan, and it left them depressed for months. Falling for this scam doesn't necessarily imply a lack of intelligence, but rather it happens due to loneliness/need of human connection, especially during self-isolation and lockdowns. So I actually had to learn what sextortion was today because I wasn't familiar with this term. And it turns out that sextortion is it seems like it can take a number of different forms, but one of the ways that it can happen is that people will be blackmailed for sexual content of themselves, or they will take some form of sexual content from them and then blackmail them to get more out of them. And instead of like the price of the blackmail being money, it tends to actually be more sexual content from this person. So I was reading into this, and it turns out that most of the victims of this during the pandemic have been mostly men, which I thought was very interesting. And the article that I was reading was suggesting that this felt like such a shot at men. They're like, maybe it's because men have lower standards of like who they interact with for a sexual encounter, or because of heightened loneliness that they felt during the pandemic, or maybe more looking for more encounter or more sexual experimentation. They had a lot of theories, but there's nothing really solid. So yeah, I guess this type of scam usually happens because people build a relationship with someone who they think they know, and then this person gets a hold of some materials and uses it against them. So yeah, be careful about the kind of materials you send to people over the internet, guys.
I think everybody should just release some news of themselves somewhere online, just leak them, and this way, like, nobody could. I was seriously considering that. You could that way you could be in control of which news of you are on the internet. So like those will always show up first. Like, so you could like pose very well, like you have like a good news.
Didn't Vosh do that? He leaked his own nudes.
Yes. I was actually
That's
considering
right.
doing that, right? Because if I could get the best news of myself trending, right, like somewhere, then if some less, some if some leak eventually get leaked that is like less good, I'm not planning on sending it to anybody. I'm just like oopsies, like, oh my god, like what happened? I don't know, right? So this way, whenever if anybody search from it, like at least one like with a good pose shows up, right? And also like
good lighting.
Good lighting also, yeah. Like also it's like, yeah. So
I mean, it's not usually that simple though. It's not usually just like, oh, it's a nude. I mean, that's one form of it, but it can be like coercing people into doing certain acts that would be particularly humiliating.
Yeah, I think like, okay, so this is like, I know a lot of people are not going to relate to this, right? But if we could like normalize sexuality, right, to the point where nobody gives a crap. So we're like, oh, if you're gonna really, if you don't do this for me, I'm gonna release these images. People are like, well, I'm gonna release it myself. You know what I mean? Like, these are so good, I want everyone to see it. You know what I mean? Like, if we could get to a point where people are just so,
I know people who've done that.
yeah. I want people to just be so comfortable with their sexuality and everything that there's no shame and there's no guilt and there's no sex negativity, where people are like, is that a threat or is that like a is that like a reward? Like, I look great, go ahead and
I
share
think
that.
the problem is like, it's maybe funny to joke about, but the problem of like, it's different from you being like, oh, I'm going to preemptively do this, and then the problem of someone is threatening me with this. So because the only way that I can take control back into my own hands is to do it myself. Ultimately, that's still something that wouldn't have never occurred from your own volition. So that's still an extremely violating experience. So I can imagine why this person's friend was so depressed. That's so violating.
I know I'm not trying to dismiss how important how that is, right? But like that only works because we think negative, like people like this. I'm not trying to victim blame, right? I'm not trying to be like, oh, you should just be okay with this. No, this is horrible, okay? But it is horrible because people have been victimized twice in that situation. One, because of them, this level of control is being taken away from them. But two is because we are, that mentality exists that there's something shameful about sexuality. Do you know what I mean? I'm not, that I'm not saying people could fix that. I don't think people could just change their mentality so they don't think like that. And like that's not the expectation, right? But I'm just saying that I hope one day we get to a place where this can't even be a threat because people are like, that's just my body. Like, yeah, it was like, so what?
Yeah, oxymoron is saying sextortion thrives on modesty culture.
Thank you.
Very good point.
Actually, you just said everything I was trying to say in a couple of paragraphs. You just said it in like half a phrase. So thank you so much. That's the best way of describing what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah. So next question is from Ego, aka Erica. By the way, I'm like 90% sure that Erica is actually a male. So Erica, if you don't like me calling you that, I won't. But I think it's cute and funny.
She loved it last time when we called her Erica.
Okay.
So I think
Erica is asking.
Yeah.
We're also going to use like female pronouns. Screw it.
Let us know if that's okay, Erica. Right,
if you don't like to be misgendered. So anyways, Erica is asking, in recent years, the Indo-Fijian and Hindu-Fijian minority citizens in Fiji have reportedly faced discrimination from the Christian majority, especially over rights to own land. Some politicians and religious leaders have even called for banning other religions. So, how can peaceful coexistence be maintained and violence like that? Like what happened in previous coups be avoided? Well, this is first of all, this was something I wasn't aware of. I don't really know much about Fiji at all. Besides, it looks pretty down there. But obviously calling for the banning of other religions is something we completely oppose and stand against. Brave position to take, I know. So how can peaceful coexistence be maintained and the violence preventing, what happened during previous coups be avoided? Frankly, I don't know enough in detail about the goings on of Fiji to be able to give an in-depth answer. I feel like that's something that's very variable for different regions in different groups. Like I imagine there may be some socioeconomic factors that impact these groups in different ways. That likely influences how they interact with each other. And
I mean, the answer is easy. Just get rid of religion. Like just like promote atheism, promote secularism. That's the answer. Like I mean, okay. So when it comes to Fiji, right? I don't know much about Fiji. But I could tell you, I used to date a Hindu Fijian. So there's that. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and their family was also very anti-Muslim. So there's that. I mean, they just wanted to make sure I'm not a Muslim, right? They didn't care that I'm not a Hindu. Because they didn't care that a Hindu is like dating, like a non-Hindu is dating their daughter. Because I was born in Iran, so they wanted to just make 100% sure that I'm not a Muslim. As long as I'm not a Muslim, they don't know what atheist, whatever that is. And they also wanted to make sure, they also wanted to check that I used to be a Muslim. They were like, well, are you gonna go back to being a Muslim? Like I was like, no. Right, so they're nice, but that was like very important for them. But other than that, it was pretty okay, right? So I mean, it's interesting how you see like from a community that is facing discrimination from Christians, but they're still like they still have that anti-Muslim discrimination still built within their way of thinking, even though they themselves are a subject of discrimination. But yeah, I mean, the solution to all of this is just to like promote promote atheism. I think
Well, I think
or like
that's very reductionistic. I know you're joking. I think
no, I'm not.
they probably need
No,
much
no.
stronger. It's not
No, I'm
that
not
simple. Like you need strong protections for minority rights as well.
Yes, I know, but over the long term, the change needs to be from bottom up. Okay, like you need to if you fight against religion, even if people don't become irreligious, it will have an effect on people taking religion seriously, right? So I'm not saying people should like the expectation is for everybody to leave their religion, but if you promote a culture where atheism is part of the people's vocabulary is like and secularism is an ideal that people are like pushing for, even if people don't leave their religion, that level of competition will make people take their religion less seriously, right? So it is like I'm being reductive, yeah, for good reason, because it works. Right? So there, yeah, I mean, it has worked everywhere when people's religiosity has reduced, these problems have become less. So if I'm being reductive, it's because I've seen the results.
Well, I don't know much about this conflict, but I doubt that it's exclusively a religious conflict.
Nobody suggested that. Okay, like no, when we say lack of, but obviously religion is part of the problem here, right? Nothing is ever just because of religion. Okay, like very few things are just because of religion. But obviously, if we have Christians oppressing Hindus, it's pretty safe to say that religion is part of the calculation here, and less of a religion will help things a lot. Okay, and nothing, when I say help, it doesn't mean it's going to be eliminated, it doesn't mean it's going to be completely go away. I'm just saying that it will definitely be part of the things that will contribute to making things better. That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Okay, so next question from Erica is back in the 1990s, the predominantly Buddhist kingdom of Bhutan forcibly exiled a large number of its citizens from the Hindu Lokshampa ethnic group. They remain refugees in other countries to this day. By doing so, has this government proven itself to be only nominally secular, but in practice a constitutional theocracy utilizing religious favoritism? So this sent me down a like wormhole today because I didn't know about this and I was very curious. So upon so like I said, I just learned about this conflict or issue today. So my analysis of this is going to be pretty surface level. But when I was poking around some information and just looking for this, I think I got the impression, and granted, oftentimes a lot of online sources, they don't want to admit the extent to which religion actually does influence these decisions. Like, I feel like people are very like protective or like really obscure, that kind of thing. But I really got the impression that this is kind of more of a xenophobic, ethnic issue, or in some ways kind of a isolationist measure against losing cultural identity. So what I learned is that these Lokshampa ethnic people, which is actually a large number of different types of ethnic groups, but they all originate from I believe they all originate from Nepal. So they came to Nepal in like midway through the 19th century, and some more were brought in after that. And so they were all along the southern regions of Bhutan. And so then Bhutan seems like they kind of went through this period of trying to really solidify, clamp down, and have a lot of conformity and rules around preserving certain aspects of their cultural heritage. And this would even include, I learned today that Bhutan has like a dress code, like for the country. This was
What?
crazy to me. Yes.
No.
It wasn't clear to me the extent to which this is enforced, but in public and in business hours, there is like a dress code for the nation.
You're right.
And especially when you're going into certain
Oh
types
no,
of
this is
government.
no, not for the entire country. It's like it's compulsory for all Bhutanese to wear a national dress code in schools, government offices, and formal occasions. So not all the time.
Yes, but this is something that is like regulated on the government level. And so they
Wow.
were forcing a lot of, maybe it was different back in the 80s and 90s, and maybe it's loosened up now. But back in the 80s and 90s, when all this favoritism started to happen, or all these divisions started to happen around the Nepali origin Lakshampas, when they would force the Lakshampas to wear this form of these Bhutanese clothing. And so this started to cause a lot of issues. And then it eventually resulted in full-blown expulsion. And what preceded this was a census that was like strictly applied in the South, where this ethnic group was, to identify who's citizens and non-citizens, when many of these people, their lineages had been living in the country since the mid 19th century. So to me, that reads much more as a very xenophobic policy, very isolationist, and very, very focused on kind of preserving a very tight cultural identity and very tight conformity. But of course, I can well imagine that the fact that these Nepalis had a Hindu faith, by the majority of them were Hindus, that definitely had to play a role in it, especially since the Bhutanese government does seem to have a very firm interest in mandating a certain level of conformity. That's obviously very dissimilar, and they couldn't seem to tolerate it. It was very interesting to learn about this today. The dress code thing shocked me.
Yeah, that's insane. I always thought like Bhutan was this like chill place that people didn't take things so seriously, and everybody was just chill and just especially because they have like this world, this happiness index. I thought like everybody was just happy and people were just like cool with each other. Apparently, I have no idea about how anything is in Bhutan, so I was wrong. Wait, isn't Bhutan also the one with the crazy flag, right? And also where you go to
define crazy flag.
I
know the Nepali flag is the one that's actually
cut
with the triangles.
Yeah. Sorry, that was Nepal.
But what I found interesting, and again, this was a very cursory examination, was it seems like an emphasis on conformity and like a tight preservation of their cultural traditions was very important in Bhutan, to the point of being like very authoritarian, like, which isn't cool at all. I think like, having a country with a rich cultural heritage is important to preserve, but not to the point of like regulating it and making people dress a certain way. It makes more sense if it's regulated for architecture. I think that's actually like pretty cool, because then you get to have very interesting buildings that are very distinct to your region. But in terms of people's personal freedoms, I find that very violating.
See, I keep getting Bhutan and Nepal confused. Like one of them is Hindu, the other one is Buddhist. I thought it was the other way around. Which one is it that you go for Everest? Is it Nepal or Bhutan for climbing Mount Everest? Nepal. And which one is it that Buddha was born in? Was it Nepal or Bhutan?
Nepal.
Wow, you know them. Why do I? Okay. In my defense, they're pretty close. That's why I'm always getting them confused. But anyways, okay, cool. We learned a lot today about Bhutan. Thank you very much.
And that is only the beginning of it, because Erica asked another very interesting question today.
Erica said, "Call me Ego in the live chat." So let's go.
Okay, I'll call Ego. So Ego asked another very interesting question today that sent me down another Wikipedia wormhole today, which was, I've noticed a lot of anti-Ziganism, which is anti-Romani sentiment, out of some European countries with Roma populations. How can bigotry towards the Roma/Romani people be lessened? Also, do either of you know anything about the Romani Devlaism religion? I've looked online but had trouble finding info about it since it seems to have since it is allegedly only meant to be discussed by those within the few clans that practice it. It seems rather clandestine. So, this sent me down a wormhole of learning about the Romani today. Very interesting. For those people who don't know the Romani, they're more commonly known as the Gypsies, and that's the only time I'm going to say that word, just so that people know what I'm talking about, because otherwise that word is a slur. So we say Romani. Anyways, it's a very difficult topic. Anti-Romani sentiment has been something that's very steeped across European cultures for centuries. And they've experienced intense persecution. They were one of the most harmed populations during the Big H, during
Let's just mention it, just to
World War
say
II.
the Holocaust. Let's just say the Holocaust.
Yes, we don't need, because there aren't even good records of how many Romani there are. Like, we don't even really know how many were killed during the Holocaust, but hundreds of thousands. And interestingly enough, even though in Europe, most of the Romani population seems to be in Eastern Europe, apparently, Pew Research has found that Italians are the most racist against Romani. With like 83% of Italians reporting like a dislike or bigotry towards Romani.
That explains why Italy took the side they took during World War II. They're a bunch of fascists.
It's only that.
Right? No, they're just a bunch of. No, I'm just kidding. Why am I kidding? Okay, is that racist to say about Italians? It's data, okay? It's just statistics, okay? We're just like okay, go ahead.
I think this is a really complex topic. So, to be honest, when it comes to the Romani in Europe, I don't understand. I don't fully know at this point the extent to which they are still nomadic. So, there is actually a large Romani population in the US, and they're, at least what I've seen, pretty impoverished, but they're not nomadic. They are kind of in North Carolina and living in trailers and stuff. And they still practice child marriage. Again, this is what I see on TLC, so I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. But I think so. If there are communities that still are nomadic, this is going to be a huge barrier because it prevents them from building roots. It prevents them from investing into a community. It prevents them from investing into stability. And I think that long-term settlement helps build generational wealth. And there's also just so many, they're just viewed as a criminal population within these countries. And that's a huge barrier to overcome. I know in Eastern Europe, I'm not sure which countries, but I know that there are some like special Romani schools where Romani children go instead of like the ordinary schools, and for all the other children, and that this puts them at a disadvantage. And so I don't know if those schools were intended to kind of address their like any special needs that they might have, but it seems like the result is kind of like a separate but equal, like real disadvantage.
I mean, technically they do commit more crimes, but that's because of the socioeconomic conditions that they are in, right? And even if people say somebody was pointing in the live chat that it's also is part of their culture. Yeah, I mean the culture is a function of socioeconomic conditions, right? Like this is a population that lives under a lot more levels of poverty than others, right? So you would expect that to happen, right? So the problem is that then people, internalize those attributes to the ethnicity, and therefore they become racist or bigoted against them because of the behavior that they have that is technically a product of the conditions that they have been forced to live in, right? So it's not really fair to them. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really complex.
Mm.
I think any communities that are nomadic or transitory, it's at this point, I think it could be considered a maladaptive trait. Because I remember I watched this documentary out of, it was called India's Forgotten People, and it was about this group called the Gadia Lohar. And I think they originated in Rajasthan, interestingly enough, which is where researchers believe that Romani people originally came from as well, although I believe at very different timelines. And the Gadia Lohar are iron workers that just move around in carts. And it's because during the Mughal invasion, they were in this city and it got besieged, and they tried to fight and defend their city and their king. And when he was defeated, they said that they pledged to never have a home, to always to never settle, and to never sleep under a roof until they got their city back. Well, they never got their city back, and for hundreds of years they've still maintained this lifestyle. And when I was watching this documentary, I was just thinking of how the fact of the matter is, in the modern age, these people are going to be left behind because they have no means, and many of them refuse to settle down and learn new ways to, frankly, keep up with the world and remain competitive and find new ways to provide for themselves. Like, they are fallen into poverty because who needs an iron worker nowadays, really, when you can get everything made industrially for way cheaper?
Right.
And
We should go to a new
I
question.
know it's just a tough question. And you just think, like, how can these people be helped when a fundamental tenet of their cultural identity, which is a very important part of every single, like, our identity formation at early age, is to move, is to
Right.
be on these bull carts? Like, how do you
I,
address that?
yeah, true. I do want to answer some. There are some really good live chat questions that I want to make sure that we get to. So if we spend too much time, I think we had.
Oh, well, we didn't answer the question about the religion. So the religion thing, I think, I find it really interesting to see how many of them maintain parts of Hinduism. Like, I learned today that they worship a saint called Saint Sarah, which also goes by the name like Sarah E. Kali, and it's a form of Shaktism. So they worship Mother Kali, and it's another like indisputable link to Mother India.
Wow.
And there have been politicians in India that say that Romani people should be recognized as part of the Indian diaspora.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Anyways, we do need to move on. Like, we spent way too much time on this one. But okay. Yeah, thank you though.
Gation American is asking, in honor of Black History Month, what are your thoughts on the MLK quote? I don't know if I can say this word, so I'm going to say the African Americans. So the African Americans' great stumbling block is in the stride towards freedom is not the White Citizens Council or the these words. I'm just going to say it, or the KKK, but the white moderate who is more devoted to quote unquote order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal that you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who constantly advises the African American to wait until a quote-unquote more convenient season. Do y'all agree with this statement, or do you believe that this statement can still be applicable today in prison reform or other social movements?
Guys, by the way, just to let you know that the reason why we're not saying the triple K thing is not because we think we shouldn't say it. It's just because YouTube might think we don't get a strike for stuff like this. We do get deprioritized when we use words like that, right? So So what's the gist of the question in general? Like, what is like?
Well,
What are
so
you
Martin Luther King is saying
like?
that what's
Yeah.
the real obstacle to Black people
Mm.
getting liberation is not outright bigoted people who might actually go
Right.
exert physical harm on people, but
Right.
white
Right.
moderates who hem and haw and are milk toast and
Right. So I don't know how accurate this is. I mean, I'm when I say accurate, I mean like I know this is an accurate quote, okay, but I don't know how correct MLK was about this. Okay, so I think like to be able to know whether how this, you know, that you need to do a lot more. You need to be a lot more involved with this movement or have more access to information to be able to know how big of an effect, which one is the bigger stumbling block. Right now it's, this quote seems to be more true than before, right? But at that time, more explicit forms of racism was more common. So it is possible that this is not an accurate quote back then, even if it applies more for today than it did for before, because it is possible that the level of outright, explicit, direct racism against Black people at that point was so high that MLK was wrong, right? It is possible, okay? But I don't think he was wrong. I think like those people were not in power. I think like the main people that were could have been helpful and weren't being helpful. And if I had to guess, I would say that MLK was correct about this, right? And you know, right now we might want to say like we shouldn't collectively talk to people, talk about people as black and white and stuff like that. You know, we say white moderates. I mean, it's easier to say that right now. Back then, it was like you know, the moderates that could have changed things were white. I don't try to collectively talk about people with their skin color, about their skin color, but I mean, back then things were different. I don't want to be too picky over MLK quotes, like right, like that would be weird to do to do that. But especially given that I'm not as active in this movement as a lot of other people are. However, it does remind me of another activist movement that I am involved with. It just seems to be very, what he's claiming here seems to be very similar to that. Okay, so let me tell you what I'm saying, right? So I think like when it comes to fighting for the rights of ex-Muslims, right, in Islamic countries and elsewhere, and the way ex-Muslims are being oppressed and discriminated against and threatened and murdered and tortured and ostracized and demonized in Islamic countries, the conditions that ex-Muslims live in, right, the threats that ex-Muslims live in Islamic countries, all of that is being, the progress that we could make to move away from that, a lot of that is being made difficult, not necessarily by, I don't know, like the radicals, the terrorists, the ISIS, or the or the Al Qaeda, or a lot of the lack of progress is happening because of the moderate Muslims, right? So that's what very similar to what's happening here, right? So let's look at the quote. So if I'm going to replace what MLK is saying, and I'm just saying like what he's saying rings very true to me because of what we're experiencing also with our movement, right? So he's saying the ex-Muslims' great stumbling block in the stride towards freedom is not ISIS or Al Qaeda, but the Muslim moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension. Yeah, basically the absence of tension, to a positive peace which is the presence of justice. Who constantly says, "I agree with you in the goal." This is very true. Okay, I don't see the entire quote here because it's cutting, but like I really like this part because this is exactly what moderate Muslims are saying. I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods. This is what moderate Muslims tell us ex-Muslims. Hey, we should just change this quote. This is now, I love this quote so much right now. If you just replace the N-word in there with ex-Muslims, and you replace those radical white supremacist groups with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and replace moderate white with moderate Muslim, this is the exact complaint I have been having about this whole idea of like them telling us to chill the fuck out. This is what they're telling. This is the moderate Muslims are telling ex-Muslims and atheists to chill the fuck out, and they're telling us that, hey, we want secularism as well. We want women rights as well. We want LGBT as well, but we don't like your methods. That is what they tell us. Where's the entire quote? I need to really release this quote somewhere while replacing everything. This is fantastic.
It's on our Patreon if you want the
now.
Full thing. It's one of his most famous quotes.
Okay. Yes, this makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, again, I can't be 100% true, certain that what MLK is saying was correct or not, because I'm not as familiar with like the numbers and what the exact struggles were at that time with that movement. But it rings very true with me with our movement if we just replace the words a little bit. Does that make sense?
I think my only criticism is for MLK's quote is actually not the criticism of the quote, but of the way people use it now. I've seen a lot of people throw this quote in people's face when they're trying to have legitimate criticism of a movement. They just say, "Oh, you're just like you're being, the white moderate that MLK warned about. And you're being an obstacle, blah, blah, blah." And I don't like how sometimes people throw this in your face to just shut down criticism.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but I think like even if people misuse it, what MLK was saying was true.
No, I agree with the spirit of it.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the full quote. I found the full quote on Patreon saying, "I'm just going to repeat. Say, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods." Oh my God, that's what they tell us. Yeah, that is so true. Where's okay? Who paternalistic plays? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So again, I can't 100% be true about what MLK was saying, whether or not it was true. But based on what I know about our own movement, this is exactly what's happening with us. Right. So that's my answer. Yeah.
I need everyone to clench their buttholes and hold on to their assholes because Mujahid Kubi is in the live chat.
Wait, don't people who like to eat ass like clenched buttholes even more? I don't think they like that. I don't know. I don't think that's gonna work. I don't know.
I texted him that earlier today. I think he said he's like, I like a workout or something.
You like a little bit of a resistance,
I like a challenge.
Yeah.
Guys, go check out the Habibi Power Hour podcast because I was recently a guest on Mujahid's podcast and it was so much fun. I love those guys. Clenching assholes is just a workout. So what was our next question? Okay, so next Patreon question is from Holes in the Standard Narrative, which is our Hindufa person, or Hindufa supporter, saying, "Atheist Shiromani, Vedic Chara, Shri Armin Sensei." So just giving you all the honorifics, all of the titles, all the honorifics. Armin Sensei, please explain to this ignorant discipline how there is racist colorism in traditional Hindu texts and how it percolates into colorism and caste. This is referring to a claim you made recently that they're giving you some pushback on.
All right. So I'm going to bring up the scripture, and I also wanted to thank the queer Indian atheists for helping me find these verse, because I know the verse existed. I just couldn't find it, but now I have found it. But also, I want to correct the question. I didn't say racist. I said colorist. Okay, so casteist is bigoted. Casteism is bigotry because it's based on heretical, right? It's based on birth. Since the earliest scripture, like it's not something that was added later. This was from the very beginning something that was supposed to be by birth. Okay, so but it didn't say races. Okay, because the concept of race was not part of their definitions. Okay, so there was like tribes, there were people. Skin color was obviously a thing that people saw and detected, like that was like always a thing, right? So colorism was a thing. I don't know if you could technically call it racist, because back then racism was not a thing. Okay, bigotry comes in many different forms. Bigotry comes in forms of tribalism, ethnic supremacy, tribal supremacy, colorism, and stuff like that, right? So racism is more of a modern concept. I mean, technically you could say that it's very close to discriminating against people based on their heretical, based on their lineage. You could say, well, technically it's the same thing. True, it's technically the same thing, but we don't call it that because the concept of race was defined much later. Okay, but color is that the claim I made was that there was colorism in traditional Hindu text from the beginning, from very early on, right? Well, not from the beginning, actually. The Mahabharata is not from the. How old is the Mahabharata? Comes a lot later than the Vedic,
Mm-hmm.
the Vedic scripture. But if you want to say the Mahabharata is not part of Hindu, this is not a serious. I can't spell Mahabharata. There's so many vowels. Mahabharata. If the Mahabharata is like wait, isn't yeah, the Mahabharata is such an important part of Hinduism. It's technically the most like it's more in line with what we recognize Hinduism today than the Vedas. Like
Yeah.
people want to keep like, oh, it's not in the Vedas, it's not in the Vedas. Well, the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita is not in the Vedas, right? But when you talk about Hinduism, scripture, people consider the Gita to be the most important, the most famous part of, the most recognizable part of Hinduism today is the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the Mahabharata, and not the Vedas, right? Like some people will suggest that we should have two. This is two distinct religions. One of them is based on the Vedas, and then the later ones is what we recognize as modern Hinduism today. I mean, even the gods that they take seriously are different, right? Like the modern day, like well, I mean, it's not modern. The Mahabharata is like, how old is the Mahabharata? I forgot the age.
I mean, it's old. We're just
It's pretty
talking
old
comparatively.
comparatively, yeah. So
They
400
don't. It's
BC.
like Agni isn't as important anymore. I think Agni is one of the coolest Hindu deities.
Yeah, no. So like the ancient Vedic religion, if you want to call that Hinduism, the main gods were Agni, Indra,
Indra,
and there was another god which was
Proto Shiva.
Proto Shiva, right? But in the Hinduism that came later on, the main gods were Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma, right? Yeah. So yeah, but I'll bring up the scripture. Right? So the scripture that I'm going to send you is from the Mahabharata. Okay. Do you guys consider Mahabharata as like as Hinduism? Because if you don't, then you don't understand Hinduism, right? So again, if you don't think this is Hinduism, then you do think the Gita is not Hinduism. So that's how serious this is, right? So let me actually bring up the text.
Coming with the receipts.
Coming with the receipt is the guy is the Hindutva person who's asked this question is in the live chat.
Yes, they are.
Okay, cool. Cool. Let me see what you think about this. Okay, so this is book 12 of
I'm going to unhighlight the question so we can see this.
No. Keep it. No, please keep it. I would just gonna go up. Yeah, I could just scroll up. All right, so this is book 12 of the Mahabharata, and it says, and you could just find this in there. It says the complexion of the Brahmins obtained was white. The Kshatriyas, which is the next, so the Brahmins are these are the highest caste, the upper caste, right? And this is the one caste lower, the Kshatriyas, which I think this is the warrior class. Kshatriyas. Is that's the warrior caste, right?
Yes.
All right, so they were red. Uh, this is the worker caste. How do you pronounce the worker caste? The
Vaisyas.
Vaisias. The Vaisias is the worker. No, is it the work? No, the merchant class. Sorry, the merchant caste. This is the merchant caste. This is the third caste. They are yellow. And here's the lower caste, the lowest caste. And guys, I mean, even without reading this, what did you expect the color of the lowest caste to be, right? The lowest caste, which are the Shudras, this is the lowest caste that it could be. Their color was black. All right, so this is the merchant. So we have the Brahmin class, which is the highest class, that caste. These are the priests. These are the learned people. Okay, then they are white. Then you have the warrior caste, which is red. Then you have the merchant caste, which is yellow. Yeah, people are saying black. Yes, exactly. And then you have the lowest of the lowest caste. They are black. Do you think it's surprising to you, which in the Mahabharata, the highest caste is white skin and the lowest caste is black skin? Do you think if I didn't show you this and I told you that there's colorism in Hinduism, if I ask you based on if you expect colorism in a tradition, what would you expect the highest class skin color to be and the lowest caste skin color to be? Would you not come up with the prediction that the highest caste skin color would be white and the lowest caste skin color would be black? Based on what you know about colorism, would you not predict that?
Yeah.
Would that not be your prediction, right? So is this not proof of colorism in Hinduism?
It seems pretty damn explicit to me, especially considering that the verses preceding it are talking about all the things that were created, all the virtues that were created. Then it explicitly says human beings were created in 4 divisions, then lists the Varnas, and then says, oh, best of regenerate ones, and all the other orders of creatures that exist were created, and then explicitly lists them by complexion.
Okay, so actually, I wasn't paying attention to that. Thank you so much, Susanna, because you also proved to us that in Hinduism, the whole caste system is based on birth. Okay, again, this is in the Mahabharata. Okay, you can't get higher than this. I know people like to pretend that the Vedas are the highest scripture. And by the way, the caste system is based on the Vedas as well. We'll get to that in future streams, right? So if you think like, oh, it's not in the Vedas, it is. The caste system is in the Vedas. And the Vedas also make it clear that it's based on birth, not based on class, not based on something that you could change after birth. It is based on her, based on birth. But also, no, wait. Also, this text here, right here, also shows to you that this whole thing is based on birth, right? This is how people are created. Okay, this is how you are created. This is not something you choose after birth. But go on.
Well, so Nanda Kishore, who I know from the live chat is more Hinduism sympathetic, if not Hinduism sympathetic, is trying to say that the colors are representative or allegorical, saying white for peaceful life, red fights for war, yellow for survival earnings, and black is for ignorance. Do you still not see that as a problem?
Okay, I don't know if you're wait, I don't know if you're maybe they're not defending it. Are they trying to defend this? Not are you defending it? First of all, you're not. I don't know if that's meant to be a defense.
Yes.
Okay, they are defending it. Okay, so you're an idiot, Nanda. Caste is based on birth. It's right here. It's right in front of you. It's based on your scripture. It's also in the Vedas as well. So you're full of shit. And also, it says complexion here. So I don't know if you want to act like this is like symbolism and stuff like. No, this is actual skin color. Okay, this is actual skin color. But even in your washed down version of it, you're telling people that the sutras that they're ignorant. Like what? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so, but again, if you think that this is not colorism, this is like so indistinguishable for colorism that you have to be out of your mind if you think this is not colorism. Again, I ask you, if I didn't show you this, if you think that these colors are supposed to represent something else, right? If I had asked you, what would you expect from a colorist culture? What would you think the color of the highest caste would be? These are exactly what you have predicted, what you would have predicted. So it would be very surprising that this is not colorism if it's very much in line with what you would expect from colorism. Okay? And this is why, by the way, for people who tell you to no, go learn Hinduism from Hindus, you're insane, because they would be biased. They would not going to be tell you these things. Okay? Don't listen to Hindus. Don't listen like, oh, they have to be from India and they have to be Hindu. No, come to us. We will tell you the truth. Don't listen to people who have a bias to whitewash everything. That they whitewash literally. Okay, everything here. Okay, so come to us. Don't listen to people who are motivated into giving it, trying to, reinterpret everything, all the disgusting teachings in Hinduism. They try to change it into making it mean something else. Don't listen to them. We have receipts. We come here with the sources. We come here with the evidence, and we will show you exactly what's wrong with Hinduism.
Did you have any other verses?
No, I just want to say, somebody saying bias is there amongst religious people. Not really. I think a lot of Hindus are, much better than what Hinduism teaches. Okay. The reason why a lot of Hindus want to say the reason why a lot of Hindus want to tell you that this is not what it seems like it is because they themselves are not colorists. Okay. Like, why do you think they're trying to I have a lot more hope for Hindus than Hinduism. Okay. Vast majority of Hindus are really good people. Why do you think they're bothered by this? Okay. Why do you think Hindus are bothered by this and they're coming and telling you oh no, this means something else? All right. Well, because they themselves are not colorists. They themselves are not bigots. Okay. A lot of them are not bigots. They're misrepresenting this to you because they have higher moral standards than Hinduism itself. Okay. So just because we're anti-Hinduism, that doesn't mean that we're claiming that Hindus behave like this. Most Hindus don't. Okay. Most Hindus will be disgusted by colorism. I don't know if it's most, but I hope it's most.
We have one more patron question, and it is from Music Guy. Music Guy, actually, we are going to be talking about this on the news this week, so we can just talk about it then. You'll get our full input then. How's that?
That's good. Yeah, so we're going to have an entire section.
A very cute interaction on the Patreon. So Ego commented, in case no one has said it recently, you guys are doing great work. Keep kicking ass. Don't let the trolls get you down because you have plenty of supporters, which I thought was very sweet and very nice. And then our Hindufa supporter had commented saying, I love these guys. What comment do you think means that I'm trolling, blah, blah, blah. But then I saw that they deleted it. As if Ego was saying, oh, he's trolling you. Don't let it get you down. And then he was like, no, I love these people. And I was like,
aww.
Wait, that's really sweet. Even for the people that really don't like us, I think they find a lot of other stuff that we talk about interesting at the very least, even if they think we have some opinions very wrong.
I think he likes us. He just disagrees with us. Yeah. By the way, I see some people in the live chat keep saying well, Hinduism allows you to disagree with it and stuff like that, right? First of all, well, thank you. That's what I'm doing. I don't know what that defense is. People are well, you could say bad things about Hinduism, and we're not going to behead you. Or okay, well then I'm going to carry on then. So what's the issue? Right? So what's that defense? People are oh, every time you attack Hinduism, they're we're not going to behead you. We're not going to behead you. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. What do you want me to do? To just be so grateful for you not wanting to behead me? One, right? Here's a cookie.
Also, we have been threatened with beheading from Hindus explicitly many times.
Yeah, true. And Hindu scripture does have orders against what to do with blasphemers. Okay, so it's
Mhm.
not like it's not part of Hinduism. We will have that. We will have videos on you showing that Hinduism is very much anti-blasphemy, anti-heresy, and anti-atheist. Okay, Hinduism is very wide and all over the place. So you can find scripture that shows, like, I think a lot of Hindus will point out scriptures that will be like, oh, look, even the gods doubted the existence of, like, I don't know, them, gods apparently. But like, it's just all over the place. I could find you scripture that shows you that Hinduism is very, very aggressive against people, against atheists or people who question Hinduism, right? There are scriptures like that as well. But the point is that the people who keeps acting like Hinduism is better because it lets you criticize Hinduism, they are butthurt over we're criticizing Hinduism. They're like, well, you're telling me that I can, so, and I should be able to. So why are you like crying over, like, well, at least we don't let you criticize us? I'm like, okay, well, that's what I'm doing. Like, are you gonna do that? Like, okay, well, can you criticize Hinduism? Like, oh, yes, there are problematic verses in Hinduism, but you don't have to accept it. My problem is not with Hinduism, is not that you have to accept it. My problem with Hinduism and some of you guys is that you don't mention them, right? You're like, oh, you could point them out. Like, we don't have to follow them. Okay, well, mention them. Are you going to be able to, like, you say you can't criticize them? Are you going to criticize them? No. Are you just going to make me do it only? The only thing you're going to do is just have this defensive reaction to say, like, oh, well, you can criticize Hinduism. Then why don't you participate? Why are you so butthurt over me criticizing it then, if you think I'm allowed to? Anyways.
So let's get to the live chat questions. Guys, if you don't like to wait this long, you should become a patron, because then you get the first class treatment. We spend a lot of time dissecting your questions, and yeah, you get to get it first. Plus, you get all of our sexy blasphemous art. And you can also message us on Patreon. So, good quick questions from the Roaring Man saying, will you have apostate Aladdin on someday, or Aladdin? I would love to. I think we should have apostate Aladdin on
they have to
secular
come to us.
jihadists
We're not gonna. Here's the thing: we have had bad experiences with reaching out to people and then them just like last minute canceling. Okay, so they have to show some eagerness. Okay. Oh, who is this? The Noodly Noodles. What's her name again? Noodly Noodle.
Infidel
what is that?
Noodle.
Infidel Noodles, right?
I can't get over Noodly Noodles.
She scheduled a stream with us for secular jihadists, and she was so high maintenance. It has to be like this. I can't talk about this. Why is this? Why is this like this? And we kept on changing everything to make sure that she's happy. She was like, I don't like this title. I don't like the cover. Like, okay. Like, we change it. And then even though we like, okay, whatever you want, last minute she was like, well, I guess I'm not happy with like this guy. Like, last minute, right before we were supposed to go live, after we promised our patrons that we're going to have a show with her, and right before we were supposed to go, like, everything was scheduled, everything was announced, she was like, I'm not comfortable, maybe another time. Well, maybe never. I'm sorry, like, we're not, like, maybe another time. Really? You think after what you put us through, we're going to schedule another stream with you after this bullshit that you put us through? Like, obviously, like, you're not worth anyone's time. Like, you know, these people, as soon as, like, some of them, as soon as they get like some followers, they think like, I'm so great. You have to everything has to be, look at how many people are following. I'm famous now. You have to treat me like,
oh my god, Armin, well, you weren't even gonna be on that stream. It was gonna be me and Ali.
No, like, fuck you. Like, look at how people feel like they're so full of themselves as soon as they get some followers. So I'm not gonna waste my time with you. Go fuck yourself up, like, go fuck off, bitch. Right? Like, so that's how I think, right? So we spend so much time in trying to getting these guests, and then they waste our time. And so I'm not saying if I posted Aladdin is like that. I have no idea. Sorry, I posted Aladdin. I wasn't talking about you. But I'm just saying, like, we from now on, like, we're just gonna wait until somebody comes and actually they show some eagerness to be with our show. Like, if you think like you're so high and mighty because you have followers, and you're just like not gonna you're gonna treat people like shit just because you think like you're special, then you could fuck right off. Like, we don't need you. Yeah. So Yeah, but we're gonna wait for people to reach out to us. We're not gonna waste time like reaching out to other people. Yeah.
Anyway, so this is an example of why I'm here to build bridges. Because Armin gets very confrontational.
Yeah.
I
mean, I just say it how it is.
I was very frustrated by that experience. It did really make me angry at the time, but I know Aisha will probably see this, and I would actually still like to talk to her. I think, to be honest, this was her way of like actually just getting out of it. Like, she doesn't actually want to do it. I think she doesn't like Atheist Republic, maybe because of her relationship to Muhammad. I don't know. I think she's a cool person. I would like to interview her, but if she doesn't want to, and she probably especially won't after this, Armin.
I don't care. Okay, I'm very grateful for all her contributions, and I'm glad she's doing what she's doing, and I hope she keeps doing it because that's valuable. Okay, but I don't want to waste my time with people who don't realize that we just told our patrons that we're gonna have a stream with somebody, and they scheduled their time like they paid for this, and they set the time to be able to go watch this live with us, right? You know. And they maybe like cancel something else, and in last minute you're telling us that it's not going to happen. Like, maybe you should have thought these things through before you talk.
It straight up fucked up my schedule for a whole week. It made me so mad. But now I'm over it. So
yeah. So D is saying it's unfortunate, but I get Armin's response. Yeah. Anyways, thank you, D. D is supporting me. All right, next question.
I support you too. I just don't usually put that out on Front Street. You know, we have different methods, but I get it.
Okay.
Anyways, Elv is saying, I am a 13-year-old atheist. Is that too young? No, not at all.
Too young
I became
for what?
An atheist when I was around the age of 13.
Wait, too young for being an atheist?
I think that's what they mean.
Okay, there's no age for too young for being an atheist. There's no age right for being religious. There's every age is wrong for believing in God. So there's that. All right, next question.
Okay. So Steve McStevington is saying, do either of you consider marriage, monogamous or otherwise, to be something worth carrying over even with religious reasons? Because maybe you mean even without religious reasons, because personally, I don't. I think yes, because it is also a legal and civic institution at this point that is very important, that can allow you legal rights to another individual that are very important. That's my main priority.
Okay, marriage. Okay, so unfortunately, the legal framework gives advantages to married couples in a way that non-married couples will be left out of, right? However, it needs to be abolished. Like, I'm glad to see that there are so many solutions coming up for non-married couples to be able to recreate all the legal advantages that married couples have, right? But right now we're not there yet, right? Like there are a lot of ways to make sure that like non-married couples, like, people should be able to create family structures without having to go through all the legal procedures that in a way that a government is defining what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, and telling people who are love each other and want to be with each other to be like, oh, you get these rights, but you don't, because you didn't go through our approved process of considering you a couple, you do not get these legal rights. Like, who the fuck are you? Fuck off, right? Like, that shouldn't be a government's authority to be able to decide how much people have access to each other's finances or legal rights based on the procedures that the government has decided they have to go through to get those rights. So like, that is fucking bullshit, right? So marriage as a government defined institution should be abolished, but the concept of marriage itself could be redefined to include all forms of long-term partnerships and any legal structure that people come up with as a way to either, and the good thing about that is could be like more flexible, right? Some people, like when you get married, right, maybe you want these legal rights to be shared, that those legal rights not to be shared, hospital visits, child, you know, it could be every single partnership could be defined like this is how we deal with separation or with our finances, this is how we deal with hospital visits, this is how we deal with children. Like every family's decision of how that structure is made might be different from another one, and you don't want to have this template that the government is introducing as a way that everybody has to conform to, right? So Susie is like eyes. Okay, this is important. You're taking attention away from what I'm saying.
Sorry,
okay,
I wanted to see if my eyes work yet. The answer is no.
So yeah, so consider, so if by marriage you mean what is being defined by the government, I think like right now, unfortunately, a lot of people have to give in to that, because some of the legal advantages that you will have that is not accessible to the people who just who are partners, they might have to submit to what the government defines as marriage. But I'm hoping at one day that gets abolished. But when it comes to redefining marriage and being able to, because I think even if we abolish that marriage, like, and you find other ways for couples to have legal access and financial access to each other, I think that word itself has a lot of emotional meaning to people that makes their partnership seem more significant. So I want that word to be taken away from what the government defines as marriage, and anybody could call whatever long-term relationship they have, and the way they define it and the way the legal structure that they give to it. I want that to be also called marriage, even if it's not the government approved version of marriage, because I think like that word has been used for so long and it has such an emotional weight to it that you're telling couples who are not married as if their partnership means less to the ones that are married, right? So I think people who are partners with each other and in a long-term relationship with each other, they should also be able to use that word for their partnership and call themselves married and call that a marriage. It's given how important, how people see a marriage as a serious relationship and a non-married couple as not as serious, which is ridiculous in my opinion. I think you should be able to call that marriage as well. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm more of a traditionalist than Armin. I think marriage should be preserved, and I think it's actually very healthy for society.
How is that different from what I said?
Well, you have this deconstructivist approach that, on your idea of how the system will work, sounds like 10 times the paperwork.
No, it's more flexible and it's less costly if you regret it. And it's just decoupling it. It's just decoupling it from the government. The importance of marriage is the importance that comes with long-term partnership. Just because I want less government influence over how that works, that doesn't mean I don't see the importance of that. I want to expand it to more partnerships to be able to be recognized as marriage. So I don't know how I'm not seeing the value of that partnership. Just because I don't think the government should be able to dictate how we do it, that doesn't mean I don't see the value in it. I don't understand.
No, I get what you mean. Not to go backwards, I just think this is hilarious. Jay is saying fatwas on guests to cancel. And Music Guy is saying Susanna is doing HR damage control.
Okay, D is saying it's just a piece of paper when it comes to marriage. Yeah, but it is a piece of paper, but unfortunately, it's a piece of paper that you might need to be able to, I don't know, give permanent residentship to the person that you want to have to live with you, to be able to give access to your significant other to, I don't know, like in the hospital, or to your to the children that you have over from your previous marriage or something like that, right? There's so many different things that piece of paper makes possible. What I'm saying that those pieces of paper that makes all of these possible should be accessible to the people that don't want to go through the marriage that that a government has defined, right? That I think like they should, other forms of partnership should be able to find ways to have access to all of those facilities, and they should also be able to call what they have a marriage. Yeah.
Cool.
Read my earlier comment. Sorry, I didn't. Did we take it out of context? Okay, we missed it. Oh, yeah. Tradition is crumbling and people don't know how to deal with it. Well, tradition, like, okay, so people who are saying tradition is crumbling and that they're traditionalists, there's nothing you could do about it, okay? Tradition has been crumbling for the past 10,000 years, okay? Old traditions die, new traditions take its place. Nobody can resist that. So when you say like, oh, I'm just more of a traditionalist, well, time is against you. Like you either have to adapt or just get flattened by it. So
I think I'm a little bit like triggered by some of the ways you talk about this issue, because it just reminds me so much of my like critical theory days where it was abolish everything, deconstruct everything. And I'm like, there actually are some useful things that are worth maybe not completely like either some degree of preservation or evolving, which is kind of what you're really asking for. I think what your argument is some degree of deconstruction with an evolution.
right.
And I think that,
I mean, people say that
it just reminds me of attitudes of like, marriage is only patriarchal enslavement of a women. And I'm like, we've gone, okay, in North America, like our legal system has gone way beyond that. We don't have to act like that all the goddamn time. So it kind of brings up that for me.
So there's two extremes, okay? There's one extreme that thinks that things should be the way they are because they're working, okay? And that's what they said about slavery, okay? So people are like, yeah, we just, you know. But the other extreme of it, which is I'm not doing, but you keep getting triggered because you feel like I'm doing because of your bad experience with the people, the leftists that you were associated with, is that they think like they don't see that some things are part of nature and they're not part of tradition, right? I don't think I'm doing that, okay? Because I'm pretty sure marriage was not part of nature, okay? Long-term partnerships is part of human biology, and we need that. And I'm not doing an appeal to nature fallacy, okay? When I say it's part of nature, so that means we can't get rid of it. I'm not saying because it's natural, it's good, okay? And it just means that you can't just erase it, okay? I'm not saying it's superior because it's natural. I'm just saying it's unerasable. It's part of our psyche. We want human animals, okay? They need long-term couples, okay? That's what they like. That's what they want. You can't get rid of that. That is part of their nature. That's something that we can't erase. That is not part of patriarchy. That's not part of like tradition, okay? So the leftists who think you can get rid of that, they're wrong. We can't get rid of that. I'm not going that extreme. But I'm pretty sure the concept of a legal marriage is not hacked into our DNA anywhere, okay? I'm pretty sure, and that is a societal construct that we can change and play around with based on how the structure of society is progressing and what could feed our needs the best way. Okay, that is something that is changeable. Okay,
so. Legal rights are all I care about, really. Because people just argue like there's no utility to a marriage. I'm like, there's a huge utility to a marriage. Are you kidding me? And also, I think it's socially good. But anyways, Alex Kappa, if I remember, there's a lot of umlauts in this name. Saying today is my girlfriend's and I's 15th anniversary. Give us a shout out. Hey, congratulations to you guys for being together for 15 years. That's a big one. Anyways, Jay's saying the first time she makes you a sandwich, she's your wife.
Hey, yeah, man, let's make that a rule. That's good.
Good enough. Okay, so we have a lot more questions. So I'm just considering which one we should go for. So I feel like that one's a little bit niche. Okay.
You decide. You're in charge.
Okay, so Kura is asking, ISIS is making a comeback in Iraq and Syria. Do you think teaching the people their forgotten history before Islam will help by giving them a better perspective? Short answer, no. I mean, people have a lot more immediate needs than learning Islamic prehistory in those areas.
Pre-Islam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And also, I really think it's very unhelpful when people are like, "Oh, the issue to a lot of these conflicts that we face in the Middle East or Islamic countries is to learn about life before Islam." It's like, actually, let's move forward instead of moving backward. Like, I think it's interesting to learn about these things, but I don't think we should return to pre-Islamic paganism as a better way of organizing society. And also those returns to tradition often really breed nationalism and tribalism and xenophobia. And I think that's like the last thing we need. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, congratulations for taking out ISIS's new leader just yesterday, I think. I don't know.
Well, he took himself out.
Well, he was forced to because he was. I think he was.
That's very insensitive. That's Jay's uncle.
Hey, no, well, let's not talk about that. No, let's not talk about. No, Susanna, I don't know if you know, he took out a whole bunch of children right next to him as well.
Oh shit, you're right.
So, but like that's unfortunate. But I'm glad he's gone, right? So there's that. ISIS is like a lot more like it's not gonna. It's a big blow to ISIS that they managed to take out the new leader. It's not going to be as significant as taking out, obviously, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, because ISIS is a lot more of a brand now and spread like less. It's like a blockchain right now. It's decentralized, right? So it's all over. It's all over the places, and it's also very active in. I don't know what happened to Suze. It's also very active in Africa right now, more than But in Syria, it's picking up. Partly. In Syria is picking up partly because of the again, I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm making excuses. How do I frame this without making it sound without doing that? Okay, so this is an explanation. It's not a justification. Okay, please keep that in mind. I'm not justifying crimes by any group. Okay, I'm not defending ISIS here. Okay, Jesus Christ, I am just telling you how things are happening. I'm not telling you that this is okay, right? Part of the reason, again, it's not all of the reason, but part of the reason why ISIS is having a comeback in Syria is because of the discrimination, anti-Arab discrimination by Arabs. Okay? So
you mean by Kurds?
So by Kurds. What did I say?
You said anti-Arab discrimination by Arabs.
Sorry, anti-Arab discrimination by Kurds, right? So the areas in Syria where the Kurds have the upper hand and they're coming up with their own rules and laws and stuff, they are being very discriminatory against Arabs, and a lot of these Arabs are seeing ISIS as their guardians and their defenders, right? And some of them are joining them as the only force in town that could resist that, right? So also using history should not be used as a way to idealize anything from the past or to give people their identity. That is a very dangerous game to play with, right? History should be used as a way to learn from history, to see what works and what doesn't work. You should not tell people that this is who you are, this is your past. Their identity should not be tied to an ethnicity or to a land or the people or to their ancestors, okay? We have to promote individualism. If you tie people's identity to people who came before, then you're actually helping in increase of conflict. Okay, because all of a sudden all of the crimes of the ancestors and all of the good deeds and bad deeds of people who came before you are things that you have to settle scores for today, or things that you have to adjust for, like, and make right now. Okay, this is why Susanna's um, look forward strategy makes a lot more sense, right? I mean, if you look at the past, it has to be only for learning, not for defining who you are, or defining, trying to idealize any form of any group of people, or to, that shouldn't be done. Like, even in your own example, right? If you want to go to talking about history, the pre-Islamic history, well, pre-Islamic history for a lot of places happened right up until the Arab invasion, right? If you want to use history as a way to introduce people to their past, then what are you like? People use the Arab invasion as an anti-Arab force. Like, this historical event has been the greatest force of Iranian nationalists, Kurdish people, and other people to have this anti-Arab bigoted mentality by saying that you did this to us and we will get the revenge. There are many Iranian nationalists that are still waiting, counting the days for them to be able to one day get revenge from what happened 1400 years ago, from all the Arabs that exist today. They are still waiting today for the great revenge. They think that they
Collective
will
punishment.
come, right? So this is what, if you want to use history as a way to tell people who they are and who their past was, this is what you're adding to the equation, right? So yeah, don't do that. That's horrible.
Next question is from Jim Waxer. Are you guys going to do a video or comment on Jordan Peterson's latest YouTube video where he says he no longer can call himself an atheist? His fan club eats it up. That'd be very interesting for you to do a stream on.
When did he claim he was an atheist? He never claimed.
I know, he's like,
he never claimed. Oh my god, he's been anti-atheist forever. Is this just like acting like something new has happened? He's been hating on atheists and atheism for the past decade. I don't know what the hell is this coming from. Like, what you guys are saying, like, Music is saying, I knew he was going to change sides. What are you talking about? He was never on the atheist side. He was always anti-atheism. He's just pretending like something new has happened. I even listened to him directly. Him being anti-atheist. But he's just like, this is such garbage. This guy is like, I don't know. Like, what are you, like, is he like, are we just going to pretend like nothing he said in the past decade about atheism was happened? Like, is he just like is this just an excuse to just get more attention? I mean, he has all the attention in the world. What do you want from this? Like, I don't understand what's happening here.
Yeah, he always defined his beliefs in a very like diffuse way. Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. The more like, it was true before, but it's getting more bizarre now. It's getting worse. It's just getting all over the place. Like, especially his ideas on climate change are insane. Anyways. Okay, somebody saying when question. Okay. Oh. So somebody saying when he was asked by Sam Harris if Jesus was born by a virgin, he said, I don't know. Okay. That doesn't make him an atheist. He always claimed that atheism is wrong. Atheism is destructive. Atheism is the wrong way. Just because he had some questions about Christianity, that doesn't make him. He cried about the fact that the metaphorical truth and the narrative truth touch each other through Jesus Christ. What does it mean when he says the metaphorical truth? No, not the metaphorical truth. The narrative. Oh no, when he said
the narrative world and the objective world.
The narrative world and the objective world touch each other through Jesus Christ. What does that mean when he says that? That means Jesus's divinity was objectively true. That means the whole worlds of myth and reality come together through Jesus. So that means that he believed in the divinity of Jesus. When was he as an atheist? He clearly said he cried about it. He cried about the fact that the objective world and the narrative world touch each other through Jesus Christ. He cried about that, and now he's like, I'm no longer an atheist. What are you talking about? Oh yeah, I know, but I'm not saying you're saying that, Aled. I'm just saying that other people might think that. Okay. All right, go on.
Okay, so this is a very interesting and important question from Stony Lonesome. Saying, how can society fix the incel crisis? According to a 2018 study, around 30% of American men aged 18 to 30 have never had sex. Now it's probably over a third. Now I think this is
good. I don't think this is going to get fixed. I think this is not going to get fixed until we all upload ourselves into metaverse. Okay.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to say that as a solution, but I just have to be honest with you guys. Okay. A small percentage of men are going to be more successful with women, and that's not going to change. Okay, so what are we gonna do? Like, we can't, like, don't, like, the only solution is Islam. Okay, you want to make the only way to adjust. Honestly, the only way to adjust for that is to make it mandatory for women to be with certain men. Okay, if that's the only so-called solution.
Islam was right about women.
No, I mean, this is a solution that is worse. Like, it's horrible because it's basically anti-liberty, right? It's not really a solution. I'm joking when I'm saying a solution, but there's really no other way. You just have to suffer through this. I mean, even if so right now things are getting a lot worse, okay, because family structures are changing, society is changing really fast, and people don't know how to adjust for that. So there's going to be a lot of ways of people communicating with each other and making connections. It's changing too fast for people to be able to adjust to the new world, right? So that's making things a lot more complicated, and it's making these numbers go up. But even in normal times, even when we're not going through societal changes this fast, we're still going to have, a high, like, women are going to look above, they're going to look at, I don't know, 20% or 30% of men as ideal candidates, right? And men
women are hypergamous.
Yes. But men are going to look at maybe like 70% of women as ideal candidates, right? So I'm just making numbers up. Like, just because that's 30%, that's 70%, that means men are going to have a larger percentage of women that they were like, okay, this is fine. And women are going to be a lot more picky about it. So that means that men have to be a higher tier in the hierarchy to be able to have access to women, right? And women don't have to compete, right? So that is always going to create an imbalance for the vast majority of men, who are either going to go partnerless, or they're going to end up with somebody that they're always going to be unhappy about, and they're always going to look at other men and with their women, and they're going to be like, I wish that was my woman, instead of, they're always going to think like that, right? So they're going to be lonely, or they're going to be jealous for the rest of their life. And that has always been the case. This has been the case for the past, I don't know, 400,000 years when it comes to our species, right? And whatever was before us, right? Actually, it's with other mammals as well, right? So it's actually not just humans, right? And yeah, you're not going to be able to fix that. This new high numbers, you're also not going to be able to fix that, because this is the nature of going through a change in tradition, change in economic structures, change in hierarchies, changes, like, technology is changing things fast. Like, societal structures are changing every 10 years faster than they have been in thousands of years before, right? Our minds are not built to be able to adjust for that really quickly, right? So people are going to be like, one generation next relative to the generation before it, they're going to be like, everybody is weirded out by everyone else's way of life, because we're creating so many different customs, and people are like, what is this world? Who are these people? Why are they talking like that? Why are they behaving this? NFTs are a thing. What is this? Why are they selling NFTs now?
Wait,
Like, why is this picture of a dog worth this much? Like that now, we have currencies that with dog pictures in them. Like, people are getting confused. People are like, how do I talk to you? I like you. You're beautiful, but you're speaking in a way, you're talking about things that I don't understand. I go outside, people have their faces covered. Children can't talk. Children can't talk right now. They're putting children in speech therapies, because apparently now we're realizing that children learn how to speak by watching other people's lips. So now apparently
we've known that for a long time.
Okay, so now kids cannot speak. Also, people are like, one reason people are like depressed is because they're not seeing other people's faces. Okay, we didn't know how psychologically we need to see other people's faces.
No, we knew that.
We knew that. Okay, well,
this is foundational to human development. This is the first thing you learn when you take psychology.
Okay, more people are realizing that right now. Okay, one reason why you have to be against the Navabi, by the way. But no, but these are like changes that our brain is like confused. Like, people are like, people are like stuck in their homes, and now like, a lot of us, for us, this is like, oh, just the past 2 years. For some people who are like, I don't know, like 8 years old or 9 years old, they grew up this, like, some foundational parts of their lives gone through not being able to facially recognize other people. This is going to screw up. Like, when they become adults, they're going to have even bigger problems when it comes to communicating with other people. This is going to be like major. I think there's somebody at my door. But yeah, you could continue while I go see what this is.
Well, I have a lot of opinions on this. First of all, I think this is an issue in society that we don't take seriously enough. People, incel is such a stigmatized term, and they think of it as a very specific type of online, like, Reddit misogynist. And so when I'm talking about incel, I just literally mean someone who would like to have sex but can't have sex, or that just isn't a virgin, like, late into adult life. And so people like to poke fun of it because it is just painted as an incel, and they just don't take it seriously. And I think people really should take this seriously. I think a lot of people totally dismiss men's issues just because they think it's the butt of a joke, especially an issue like this. And I don't think it's funny. I think people really need to treat this seriously, because when there's this high of a percentage of young men not getting their sexual needs met, this is going to have major negative consequences on society. We already know that a lot of I mean, of course it is, guys, of course, this is important. The most maladaptive and antisocial of these types are like the gentleman shooter, I forget his name, Elliot something, who was the son of the Hunger Games producer, was like the first incel mass shooter. And he was like, why don't girls like me? I have like Gucci sunglasses. Like, I'm such a gentleman. I'm such a nice guy. And they take it out on people. And of course, that's the most extreme example. But I think this issue does breed resentment in society, and somewhat understandably so. I'm not saying that it's justified that you expect sex out of people, but people do have needs, especially emotional, and emotional intimacy needs is huge. And also, just literally, there's been studies about how Americans in particular face a high degree of touch starvation. Like, we literally just don't get touched enough by other people. And this has major implications on our mood, how we feel about ourselves. And so I have a lot of empathy for a lot of the young men that go through this. I think a huge contributing factor is the fact that society, especially over the past 2 years, although this was an issue, before the pandemic, is so increasingly atomized. And so we don't have as many occasions where you get out into the community and you meet other people. So if they're young men struggling with this issue, I would suggest to them trying to get out of the house and trying to get in front of other people as much as possible, because that will help improve your odds greatly. And instead of just talking about the problems with this, I want to actually give like some advice. And I'm not a professional, guys. This is just like my opinion, but my opinion is that if you're a young man and you're just kind of like average looking to low average. You can try the dating apps. I don't think you're going to be that successful because people are going to be selecting for the highest, especially women across the board. It is about physical first impression. And so you can try it, but I don't think you would have as much success. I think you would have more success getting out in front of people, getting into the community, and having people really like you, your personality. Just practice being charming, practice being personable, and bonding over shared interests. So, like a hobby that you really like, that you're passionate about. That's a fantastic way. And not only is it an immediate icebreaker, like if you're like, oh, I like ultimate frisbee, this is how I meet women, is through my ultimate frisbee team. That takes a huge amount of the work just right there. And two, it really helps exhibit who you are as a person, because women are much just the physical appearance is much more important to men than it is for women. And so if they find that you're someone who's safe, can be a source of security to them, and a source of emotional safety, then that will take you a long ways in terms of overcoming any, looks deficits you have. My other piece of advice is that once you get into your older years and you've reached a lot of or potentially reached more success in your career, in your financial stability, frankly, a lot more options are going to be available to you. I can't tell you how many of my friends who are in their mid 30s to 40s who are like, I'm getting more sex now than I ever have in my entire life. Like a lot of women are just attracted to guys that are older. And yeah, they're like, it's just like, I don't know what happened. I turned 35 and everyone's throwing pussy at me. So I think that's partially an aspect of having more just economic power. And also, I think, well, my personal opinion is men in that age range are just sexier. And I think a lot of other women feel that way too. So, there's still hope out there for you. But a lot of my friends who are in that age range shock me, and they're like, I was shocked at how different it is now. Like, I'm peaking like now. But I don't know. I think that's pretty good advice.
Yeah, it's pretty good advice. I also have one more point and two advice I wanted to ask you if you think those are good advice too as well. One is like, I think people underestimate how much not getting laid contributes to radical movement, right? A lot of radical movements that we have, both the Islamic, white supremacists and other kinds, involves a lot of men, a lot of young men who are not getting laid. Like, this is like, some people say that as a joke, but no, it's actually serious. That is part of the reason why these, the frustration that exists among a lot of these people is, it wouldn't be there if these people were getting laid, right? Like, again, it's not, I'm just saying it's part of the equation. So when it comes to advice, I have two advice. One, before focusing on trying to become somebody that other people like, first focus on making yourself somebody that you like. All right, do not expect other people to like you if you don't like you. Right, so figure out what makes you proud of yourself and aim for it. Right, whatever it is. Like, if it's like, getting in shape, being healthier, getting higher income, being more knowledgeable, whatever those standards are, okay? It doesn't have to be other people's standards. It has to be your standards, right? Because it also shows, if you're happy with who you are, that you don't try to act more confident, okay? Acting more confident will just get you oh, this is how you act to be more confident, right? No, confidence is something that naturally happens when you are enjoying the way you are, right? It's a byproduct. It's not something that you act like. If you look at yourself and you're happy with it, the confidence will just happen naturally, right? So be that person, right? And then when you go try to find a partner or something, then you don't have to become the person that they like, because you're already happy with how you are. You're just being yourself, and then you're looking for people that like the way you like to be. Okay, but the more important thing is that you are proud of the way you are, right? You look at yourself and be like, this is great. I'm moving. At least I'm, even if you're not the way you want to be, you could see like you could be proud of moving in the direction of the person that you want to be, right? And it could be anything. It could be like financial success, or knowledge, or like being healthy or in shape, whatever standards you have, right? So that's my number one advice. Number two advice is that don't start by going out to communicate with people. If you suck at talking to people, and if you're like awkward, and if you don't know how to, uh, just go out and try to build connections with everybody, not just people like that you're intending to fuck. All right, just be like, just
Because
learn.
it's so obvious
Right.
when that's the way you operate, and it's an immediate.
Yes, just go learn how to make friends. Just go learn how to carry yourself in conversations and be around people that you like and make friends with them, and just see how it works. Okay, just like build a network of people that you like to talk to and they like to talk to you, right? And just be comfortable with talking to people. So do that, and then before you try to be like, oh, now I'm going to go talk. And then actually, if you do that, at some point, if you keep doing that, you eventually will meet people that end up wanting to be your partner without you even having to talk to people with the aim of actually being their part, fucking them. You know what I mean? So that will just naturally, if you just talk to enough people and make enough friends, it will naturally happen that some of them eventually would want to fuck you because you're just talking to just so many people, right? So that will just naturally come along, right? If you're confident, if you like yourself, and you have a high network of people that you talk to and you are your friends, eventually a mutual spark will happen just by itself. Do you think what do you think?
No, I agree. I think Stony Lonesome is saying, I think the whole man's prime being begins at 30 rhetoric is delusional. That's not normal for the rest of the world. A man isn't supposed to have to wait until he's 35 to start getting laid. No, I agree. I'm just talking about how to navigate what we're dealing with at the moment. Like, I can't change what the environment is in, like these places like North America or the most competitive cities, right? Which is like what I'm used to. I can only give advice on like how to try to deal with what's given to us at this moment. And I'm not saying I'm necessarily right, but Alex Kappa is saying such a pick-me girl talk. Not true, you're fabulous. I know there are a lot of women who are going to think that I am being a pick-me girl. I think I'm just actually being reality-based about a lot of the problems and obstacles that men face. And like not trying to diminish and belittle it. And if people want to think that I'm like, being like, oh my God, then let them think that.
Go back to the other comment. I'm going to respond to that as well.
Here we go.
So in response to this, nobody should expect to have to wait till 35. But I think like telling people things are going to get better might reduce stress and anxiety enough so for them to be able to perform better now, right? So if you're 20 and you're frustrated and you're not going to get laid, you're not getting laid, and you're like, this is difficult, right? Telling you that things are going to might get easier, like it's likely to get easier at some point, might reduce your anxiety and stress enough so to the point that makes it more likely for you to get laid right now in your 20s. You know what I mean? So that's the point of saying that, not so that you just wait until you're 35 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. What was the other thing you wanted to highlight? You were highlighting something else.
Oh, well, I was, just highlighting praises of myself. Ego is saying that I'm, just giving sage wisdom.
Oh, what about me? I'm giving good advice as well. Here's another compliment.
Susanna, you're looking so cute. Wearing the Men in black glasses.
Wait,
the all caps.
Rajesh's questions didn't come up. Sorry, Rajesh. Can you post it right now?
Wait.
Because we, yeah.
Yeah,
Go.
no, I don't even think I've seen him in the live chat the whole time. But of
No,
course,
I think he sent it way too early, so they got erased. Like
Oh.
really, he sent it really early. So Rudrish, if you send them, like maybe send them before the show, but not like early, because they get erased if you send them like extremely early. Sorry, Rudrish.
I feel like I had one more piece of advice. Like,
No comments from Twitch.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at what I did.
Well, say, yes. Well, we do want to highlight Twitch comments, but you say something so we can highlight them.
No one's given us Twitch comments.
Yeah, I mean there was one, but here's a Twitch comment. The myth of people having to get laid and losing their virginity should end.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. People want to have sex. What are you talking about? Oh, it's a myth. It's not that they have to. It's that people want to, and we're biologically driven to. And it's a good thing because it feels good. It gets good hormones going. It feels nice. It's how we bond with people. It brings closeness. It's not a myth. What are you talking about? Maybe the pressure to lose your virginity to like be a real man or whatever, like that's a little intense. We can put a little bit of a check on that. But to act like it's just like ridiculous that people want this. What?
Like, I don't know. Nobody said that you have to, but if you don't understand how, like, you must be like, go get your dick sucked and then come talk to me. Like, this must be coming from somebody that doesn't know how good all of this feels.
Go eat an ass and then come talk to me.
No, like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, if you don't want to participate in one of the most enjoyable things, like, okay, unless you're asexual, okay, so like shout out to my asexual fans out there, right, who don't enjoy this, right? But unless you're one of those people, then nobody's saying that you have to have sex, but yeah, you're missing out on one of the most precious experiences of life. So I don't know what you're missing out, and you're going to have a lesser life for it. Okay, you're going to have a less enjoyable life for it, and the joy from sex goes way beyond just the amazing feeling of sex. Okay, for some reason it just brightens up every single other part of your life as well. For some reason,
it clears your vision. The sky is bluer.
Look, yeah, like everything becomes like better for some reason. Like, it's like you think like, oh yeah, you're like, oh, this was fantastic sex, okay, but it just like you're less angry for some reason. I don't know. You feel like your workouts are also not better. Food is taste. Everything becomes like rosier for some reason. Like life becomes like, there seems to be like, it seems like your body is signaling to you like, oh yeah, this is like, we need to preserve these genes because there were some success. Like, I'm not saying that's what's happening, okay, but it comes across as, to me, as like your body's like, let's not self-destruct. There was a successful passing off of the genes, so this is a specimen that we need to keep alive, okay? Because your
is this what it feels like to be a man?
No, I'm just no.
Like, I drained the poison. I can see clearly now.
I think sex could signal to the body that there's something successful happening here. Okay, so it's worth not getting rid of this. Okay, so that's why it's, I don't know. Well, I don't know if that's my theory for why all of us having sex is healthy, right? Because your entire hormone changes. Your life brightens up. Okay, everything seems better. Life becomes better. Life is more beautiful, and your testosterone. Like, as a man, I could tell you that your testosterone levels and your everything improves, right? And you could tell that the health benefits, the emotional, mental health benefits, and the physical health benefits from sex. Even though masturbation is good and there's nothing wrong with watching porn, you don't get that from those. Like, you need, your body needs to touch another body. You need to feel another presence of another human body next to you. You need to touch somebody and be touched by them, okay? And other things which I'm not going to describe here. But you need all of that. You psychologically are programmed to need all of that, okay? So I don't know what unless you're asexual, okay? If you are, I can't read your name is too weird, okay? If you're asexual, then that's completely valid for you not to have to, for you not to need all of this. But don't act like most of us don't need this. Most of us do need this. This is not just a want. This is actually a need.
Yeah. Oh man, I saw a hilarious comment. Wait, just a second. I love this discussion so much. Oh wait, I think this is what we should end on here. Gossam is asking, Dear Susie, can you please send Armin the Farsi channel's link? I think he has lost it. Everyone in the live chat, I need you to chant it with me. Be Sharaf, be Sharaf, be Sharaf, be Sharaf.
People don't know what you're talking about. I'm scheduling one right now. Babak just sent me a schedule for another show today. Okay? All right.
Yay! Sometimes I watch the Farsi show even though I can't understand anything.
Juventus 6 is overhyped. Okay. Either you don't enjoy it, then you don't get to prescribe for what the rest of us. The rest of us are having a lot of fun with it, and if you don't get it, then it sucks to be you. We're like, sex is amazing, right? It's so I don't know. So either you don't enjoy it, or you're just jealous because other people are enjoying it and you're not getting any. Okay, but just because you don't like it or because you're not getting any, that doesn't mean that other people are not having. This is one of the most joyful things in life. Okay, so I'm sorry that you're missing out on this amazing experience. Okay, but you're not the person that you could set how important this is for the rest of us, right?
I think just like some sex is definitely overhyped, but when
depends on your taste.
Yeah,
obviously if you're not
just
into...
it's a very like clinical transactive experience, and like I think unfortunately I think that's a lot of people's experience, but when it's good,
yes,
it's very, very good.
Okay, somebody's saying too much sex is worse than not having sex. Okay, it depends on the person. What are you talking about? I have had too much sex and also too little sex, and I can tell you that having too much sex was very frustrating, but it was not as frustrating at times as I was having too little sex, right? So I have had both problems at times, and I don't know actually. Sometimes, okay, I rather have the too much sex problem was easier to deal with. It's easier to deal with. Yeah, I'd rather have that problem. I'd rather have the problem of having too much sex. Yeah. Depends
saying
on
most women in this world are asexual, just pretending to be sluts.
Oh my
this
God!
This is the biggest crock of shit ever.
You are so wrong.
You are making a lot of women not satisfied. Facts. Yes. If they're not sexually interested and they're acting like they're asexual,
maybe you're just not doing your job, Nanda. Yeah, straight Nanda, up. Maybe you just don't. Maybe you just need to perform better. Maybe that's on you. Okay, you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. Oof. I don't know. Or maybe you need to find better. You need to look somewhere else. Oh my! You have no idea nothing more wrong has ever been said in our live chat, ever. You know what I tell you? Sometimes I have a problem with too much sex. That's because what you're saying is so untrue. Okay, that's the reason.
True. That wouldn't be the case if there wasn't someone climbing you like a tree.
Yes. How could you experience having too much sex unless you're like, sometimes you have partners where they can't just stop. They just are incapable of stopping. Okay, they're just like, Yeah.
You're like, ladies, please.
No, it could get intense. All right, guys, we have to go. All right. All right, we have to go.
I had so much
Yes.
fun today.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys. All right, this was fun. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Make sure you like. Don't leave without liking this video. Don't leave without liking this video. We're going to be here in 2 days. We're going to be covering the news, and I'm going to schedule, last time I'm going to schedule the Persian show right after I eat something. Okay, so there you go. Okay, and I'm changing things on the Persian channel a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do a lot more short videos. I'm just experimenting, so just be patient with me. All right, bye, guys. Bye. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.